Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Haid. I'm the manager at Sherwood Branch, and I just wanted to let you know we have a really great opportunity, not just here at Sherwood, but across all three branches, to be offering a 3D print design class. Now, I'm going to be going over a very elementary introduction to this class. This video is meant to be kind of a refresher for those of you who've already taken the class, or it's meant to be a point of reference if you're trying to remember things, or if you just want to get your feet wet with the idea of 3D printing. So we're going to walk through some of the preliminaries of what the Tech Hub offers, but also, like I said, just basic elements of 3D print design. And we'll be using the Tinkercad free application that you can access just through a simple HTML search online. So to begin, I'm going to share just a small little presentation that we have prepared. And in this presentation, you'll note that we have more than just a 3D printer to offer at the Tech Hub at Sherwood Branch. We also have a variety of other technologies, including a Cricut maker, a mug press. We have a sublimation printer that goes along with the mug press, but also a heat press that works in conjunction with the printer. So you can make tote bags, for example. We have a Janome sewing machine as well that we're offering. And we keep adding new technologies as we hear from what the public wants and what the public needs, and we're trying to adhere to those needs. So the 3D print design certification class, we call it a certification, but it's only really just getting you familiar with the use of the technology. And once you feel comfortable, then we invite you to come and explore the Tech Hub on your own. So once you've taken this particular class in person, we then make a note on your library card that indicates you have gone through all the preliminaries and you're ready to explore on your own. You can submit a 3D print for printing without taking this class. We've had this service for a long time now. If you find an accessible STL file online, you could be using a website called Thingiverse, for example, where there are a lot of free STL files at your disposal. You can download that and then upload it to a form that we have for 3D print submissions. And what happens is one of our staff reviews the form, they get back to you, they give you some pricing details. If you're wanting to move forward with the print, we then do that and we arrange a pickup time. All of the information you need for 3D print request submissions can be found on our 3D print webpage at beinspired.ca. And you can also come and speak to any of us here at the library, and we'll be more than happy to walk you through that process. However, if you are wanting to explore the design elements of 3D print, this is a great class for you just to get, your feet wet, as I said. In both cases, whether you're submitting an image that you found, an STL file that you found through Thingiverse, for example, or if you're creating your own, it's so important that you do adhere to the library's code of conduct. And we just want to make sure that we're not printing anything that's going to be harmful or dangerous to others. We want to make sure they're following the law, of course, and we also want to be respectful of copyright laws. When you access our Tech Hub, we just ask that you complete a waiver, and this can be done in the class that you're undertaking if it is 3D print design. Basically, we just want to go over the code of conduct again. We wanted to be very mindful of the fact that, you are dealing with technology, and sometimes there are some sharp parts and there's some details to the technology that we need to be careful with because they could be very delicate, in which case we kind of highlight those things in each one of our course offerings. So to get started in Tinkercad, as I mentioned, it is a free account. It does take a little bit of time to set up your account, so we recommend that you try doing that before you undertake the class. However, we will allot about 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of each class to help walk folks through developing your own account. From the home screen, and I'll walk you through most of this in just a moment, but from the home screen, you're going to click Create, and on the that's located on the right-hand side of the page, and you're going to be able to start your design. So you'll basically have a free canvas to start working, and on the right side of your page, you'll have a variety of different shapes that you can choose from. And we are going to choose the red square to begin with, and when you do that, you're going to click it, and then it will be almost like it's attached to your mouse. As you move your mouse, you'll be moving that object with you. And then when you click again on that on your mouse, it will drop down onto your work plane, which is this grid that you see, this blue grid. You're going to position your object on the grid. You can move it back and forth. You can also use your arrow keys on your keyboard to move it. And you want to position it so that you can use the grid to your advantage for measurements. And the grid is in a millimeter measurement form. It's a simple conversion to centimeters if you're needing to do that. And you can increase the spacing from 0.1 millimeter to 5 millimeters, given the squares on the grid. Now, when you're determining your measurements, it's easier sometimes to click on the actual object that you're working within. If you click on the external side of the object, you will have this kind of measurement construct come up on the screen where it tells you your length is 160 millimeters, or sorry, that's your width, and your length is 24 millimeters. And you can also find out how tall your object is as well, so the height of your object. This is really great to work within because if you do need to create something that's very precise in measurement, you will know what you're dealing with. But in this particular project, what we're going to be doing is creating a keychain. And the keychain will have different elements involved, so measurements will matter. So we are recommending that you create a size around 160 millimeters for width and about 24 millimeters in its length. Now, how did we click and create that rectangle? I'm going to walk you through all of that in live time, well, on a live screen in a moment. But it's important to know that where you have, when you can click on your object, you'll have little squares that pop up. Some of them are white squares, some of them are black squares. And the black squares that are indicated in the corners, if you click and drag them, you will be able to increase the size and stretch your object. So when you do that, that's where you can take your what originated as a red square and make it into a red rectangle, which is kind of what you see on the screen. You can then also add a text by clicking on the text icon that's to the right, and you will then do the same thing. It will be attached to your mouse. You will draw your mouse over your object and then release it onto the object. Now, when you do this, they're not combined quite yet. They're two separate entities. They don't really belong to each other. So what needs to happen is eventually, when you're ready, they need to be combined together so that the computer system knows that you're telling it it's one piece, it's one whole. And we'll go over that as well. Now, the third component to this particular project when we're creating a keychain is to create another red square, or what will be a rectangle. Make it slightly smaller so that it can fit within your larger rectangle. And you can do that by placing it over top. It's almost like a dry fitting over top of your larger rectangle. And once again, using your solid or dark squares, you can drag it and stretch it into place. Now, the correct kind of measurement for this project, if you want to be very precise, would be if you have a 165 millimeter by 24 millimeter original rectangle, you will want your text to be smaller and fit within. So you probably want it to be about 73 millimeters to about 18 millimeters, and then you want your rectangle that goes over top, or that we're going to be relaying within. We're going to create an alcove. You want that to be slightly smaller, so about 134 by 20 millimeters. And you'll see what I mean by all of that in just a moment. But if you see the smaller image on the screen, What you're going to do is click on the perimeter, or sorry, it's a prism looking object, a teardrop object, that's with just above the top of the screen for this, where the second rectangle is, or the smaller rectangle is. And when you click and hold that and you can drag it down, you're going to sink the smaller rectangle into the larger rectangle. So when you do that, it's going to look like what you see in this second image. And the idea is then to subtract the one rectangle from the other to create an alcove, to create a space that that text can sink within. So it will look like this when it's all said and done. You can hover the text a little above the two rectangles, highlight the two rectangles once the smaller one is sunken into the larger, click the icon whole, and then click on the combine icon, which is a square and circle icon. And when you do that, you're going to see that a chunk of the original rectangle will be removed. It's creating an alcove. And you can then sink the text that you have indicated or you selected down in. So if I wanted to make one with my name, Natalie, I would type, instead of text, it would say Natalie, and then I could have that inserted into what will eventually become my keychain. So you're going to drop the text in the very same fashion you dropped the smaller rectangle. You're going to click on the teardrop or black cylinder looking or prism looking object, and you're going to drag down onto the surface of the alcove. So it's going to look like this, and you'll know when you reach the surface of the alcove because this arrow that you see over to the right of your screen within the red circle, it's going to collapse and the number is going to say 0. It's going to say 0.00. So you know you're flush now. You've reached the surface of the alcove. You're going to do the same thing where you're going to highlight the whole object now, and you're going to click the combine button, and now you have a full complete object. Now, something I didn't mention is you could create a little hole using a cylinder icon. Again, just the same way you found the square or rectangle icon, you can find a cylinder. You want to make sure that it's long enough that it can create a hole in the whole piece, in the whole rectangle, so that you can put a keychain through if you wanted to. And you would do this process the same way that you did the alcove, except it wouldn't be an alcove, it would be a hole through the entire object. You're going to be creating a hole and then you're going to be combining it to make it one piece. The final icons I haven't spoken about include sketching tools. The first one is where you can make precision sketches by connecting dots on a grid. This is really great icon you can use if you're wanting to make your own text. So sometimes if you choose the fonts that are available within the Tinkercad program and you're wanting them to stand alone, it may not work when you're 3D printing them because if you have a hole in the middle, like in the letter O or in the letter A, there's a triangle that creates a hole, a space. It's not connected to the rest of that letter. So you could create this tool, you could use this tool to create a connection if you wanted in that letter. Another thing that you can use for sketching tool is this middle one, which is a new one, and it creates almost a perfect or precision round object. And then the third one is a freehand drawing tool where you can create your own object, and it's a lot of fun. So once you get familiar with Tinkercad, it's really just a matter of tinkering and getting used to the different icons and available options within the space. I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'm going to go into the Tinkercad program and walk through how we do this very simple project together. And really, it is just that. It's a simple project, and you're going to feel very enlightened once you feel that you can do this on your own. So I'm sharing here my screen, and you can see in the Tinkercad, once I've signed in and I've created an account, we have a landing page. And over to the far right, you have the option to click create. So we're going to do that, and we're going to create 3D design. And these are all the options, as I was mentioning, on the right-hand sidebar. I'm going to click on the box, and as I also mentioned, as soon as you click on it and you start dragging your mouse, it's going to be attached to your mouse, and I'm just going to land it onto the working sheet that we have here, and it can land by just clicking your mouse again. Now if I click this right black square, I can drag the shape into whatever size or measurement I'm hoping to drag. And to get a better view, I don't know how big this is visually from just the side profile. I can go up to the top here where there's on the left top of the screen, there's a kind of a box or cube. And if I click top, I get a top view. If I click just slightly below, I can go back to the first view that I had. I can look at the front of the object. I can look at the bottom of the object if I want to. So you get a variety of different views. You can also zoom in and out using these icons on the left of your screen. So now that I have an understanding of how large it is if I'm doing a bird's eye view, I can also click on my object, and I can go and hover over the right corner square. And when I do that, I can see my measurements. So I remember that I wanted my measurements to be a little larger than this. I think I wanted it about 160, 170 millimeters long. So maybe we'll go with 165. And I can move my object. Now, as I mentioned, you can use the arrows on your keyboard to do this as well, into place. And I can also stretch my object this way if I want to, in the middle, to 24, as I had noted in my presentation. Now, we can go straight to adding text, but let's just be different for a moment and add another square or another rectangle. And this one has to, as I mentioned, has to be slightly smaller than the one below, because it needs to sync within. So we're just going to make it slightly smaller. And we're going to give it some space so there's a good parameter within. And I'm going to go to a different view now, so you can kind of see it's sitting on top. Now, remember what we mentioned, you're going to click this teardrop or arrow, or I guess it's a prism looking kind of object. And if I click on it and hold and drag down, the object will sink into the larger object below. Now, in order for the alcove to work perfectly, they can't be the same height, right? So we're going to reduce the height. And how to do that, we're just going to click this middle button, and we're going to, sorry, that's the wrong button. We're going to click this middle button and just simply go up with it. Oh, goodness. See, this is sometimes when views are a little bit more important for us. So we're just going to maneuver this around so we get the right view. Do the front view. Here we go. So I'm just going to move this down. And now I know that this is a more a narrow, or I guess it's a shallower object than the one below. And I know this will work for me. So I'm then going to lower it down, and I can see it lowering, and I can see it's kind of flush. But I want to get a better view, so I'll go to my top, and I can see, if I click on I can see it pop up again and just sink below. So that's a perfect, I guess, dimension to create. I'm then going to highlight this object's already highlighted, create a hole, and then highlight the whole object together, both pieces, and go to this icon, union or group, click. And you can see that the hole was created, the alcove was created. Now we're going to add the text. And when I do that, I'm just going to hover it over top. You want to see what your dimensions are, and you want to see how tall your object is as well. So we're just going to move again to the top vision, over to the side. Um, I'm going to let it hover again. Oh, that's the wrong object to hover. See, once again, it's a little finicky. You do have to play with your objects a bit. So we're going to hover this. There we go. And I can just, again, go to the top, go to the bottom, get a better view of the object, and just see how it will work if I sink it down into the object. Okay, so let's do a top view and then a side view again. There we go. So I can see I'm just above the base with 1.0. I can lower it a bit more so it's just flush with the base, but it's probably best practice just to have it a little bit above the base at 1. Now, if I go back to the front, or if I keep working my angles, I can see that the text is small enough that it fits within the alcove, and it makes for a very interesting three-dimensional look. And now for the last piece, I'm just going to add my cylinder shape. Again, play with my angles just so I can see what I'm working with. I'm going to lengthen it, and I'm going to make it smaller, so shrink it down to size a bit. And then I'm going to add it onto my object, poking through. I'm going to go back to the top view and then just make sure it's in proper position. So once it's here, I'm going to click whole, and then I'm going to highlight the entire thing and combine it. So now we have a hole that I can put my keychain in. The text button, or the text information in the middle, is attached, and it's within my alcove. And I have a really cute keychain that it's personalized, and I can carry along with me. If I go back to the Tinkercad I guess, landing page here, you can see that this is another project that we were working on previously. I made the object have a rounded edge by adding a circle, or making the circle flat. And then I also combined it to the original rectangle, which is a really interesting effect that can be created. Um, there are different objects here, rings that can be added. So instead of creating a hole, you could add or combine a ring to the end of your object. There are so many different concepts that can be applied just by working, or like I said, tinkering with this program. Another thing we did was we made the object flatter so that it would allow for the keychain to be attached easily. So that's it, folks. I do hope that you've learned something, and that you find that this could be a program that you can work within and explore within. You can access Tinkercad on any computer just through internet access, and of course, creating a free account. And you're also welcome to come into our Tech Hub to use it at your leisure using our iMac computers. And as always, if you have any questions, if you have any ideas that you want to run by me or the Tinkercad or the Tech Hub team, please just come on into the branch and give us your suggestions. Looking forward to seeing you, and thanks for the attention that you've given. Bye for now.